My name's Rich Manley, First Assistant Chief of Silver Lake Fire District. Early this morning at approximately 00558 hours, Silver Lake Fire District was dispatched to a reported structure fire with people trapped at 92 Fitzgerald Drive, Building 60 in the Town of Wallkill. Upon arrival, units encountered heavy fire conditions on the first and second floor. With that, I have a lieutenant that lives one building over in the same complex. Upon his arrival, he found a victim hanging from the window. By the time he could get over to him, he jumped, receiving minor injuries. A second alarm was transmitted, bringing assistance from 4 additional fire departments in Battalion 1. The second victim was removed by an unknown civilian as firefighters arrived, as reported in critical condition at Orange Regional Medical Center. Both victims were treated at the scene and transported to Orange Regional Medical Center by the Town of Wallkill Ambulance and Mobile Life Support Services, respectively. With fire conditions quickly escalating, a third alarm was transmitted, which brought additional assistance from 5 more departments. Members made an aggressive interior attack in an effort to search for anyone else that may be trapped and to extinguish the fire. All other occupants of the structure were safely self-evacuated. During operations, we encountered low water pressure, snow, sleet, rain, you name it, anything to make it a little difficult, wind. But during our operations, a mayday was transmitted following protocol for an imminent collapse. All members were safely evacuated from the building and were uninjured just prior to a collapse of the roof. Members overcame several obstacles, battling this stubborn fire, which included what I said, the icing conditions, the hydrant that wasn't working properly, and a peaked roof over a former flat roof. The Orange County Fire Investigation Team is investigating possible careless smoking as a cause of the fire. It's still under investigation. The Silver Lake Fire District would like to thank all the mutual aid fire departments, Town of Wallkill Police Department, Office of Emergency Management, Department of Public Works, Building Department, and the Ambulance Corps, Mobile Life Support Services, American Red Cross, and the Orange County Fire Investigators Office for assisting us on scene. Without the combined multi-agency response, the outcome could have been significantly different.
Sir, if I can ask, can you just go into a little bit more detail, the situation regarding the one victim seen hanging from the window who eventually jumped? Did he jump, into something? Did
He jumped on his own because the fire was already up into his apartment.
Okay, so you said that
So he
there was
had
a
no way
lieutenant, there was a lieutenant nearby. Did he catch him? Did he tell him to jump, that he'd be
No, he was
okay?
actually hanging, and he's from a second floor window, so he's about halfway to the ground when he jumped.
So your first lieutenant just reported that to you, that he saw someone
Right.
hanging from the window who eventually jumped. Can you describe the scene, when you arrived? I mean, it sounded
You see,
very
we
chaotic.
had heavy fire blowing out the windows in the front and the rear, so we had to make a quick decision on, and you had to get water in a hurry with limited manpower, because with the conditions out there, it was taking departments a little slower to get there. We got there in 4 minutes, we're right down the street.
Sounded like it was very quick moving, so it was developing very fast between
Yeah, and the
the
wind was
structural
pushing the fire
problems.
in different directions.
Chief, Jim, you have a question for Chief?
Yeah, Chief, you said there was so there's one person that was seriously injured, is that fair to say?
Right, she's in critical condition.
In critical condition currently?
Yeah.
Is that
Is
the
that
person
smoke?
who jumped?
Is that smoke?
No.
Smoke and burns, what's the nature of her injuries?
I'm prepared to update on this.
Okay.
That roofing situation, is that typical? Did you guys know about that roof, that double roof, or?
Yes,
You did,
but it's still difficult to find fire up in a roof that you have two.
but you did know about it?
Right.
Okay. At this time, Chief Urban?
Thank you, Chief Manley. Good afternoon, I'm Robert Kurtzman, Chief of the Town of Wallkill Police Department. At 12:53 a.m., officers from the Town of Wallkill Police Department responded to a report of residential fire at the Crestwood Apartments, 92 Fitzgerald Drive. Upon arrival, Sector Car Partners, Police Officer Brendan Smith and Brian Smith discovered apartments 54A fully engulfed in flames. After determining that an occupant of 54A was evacuated from the scene, the officers, along with other police officers from the department who were arriving on the scene, evacuated occupants from Building 50, including one individual who was forced to jump from his second-floor window, as Chief Manton earlier mentioned. Along with additional responding officers and Sergeant Joseph Stuber, officers continued to evacuate the building until the arrival of fire department personnel. I must point out that but for the courageous actions of the first officers who were on the scene and assisted with the evacuation of the building, and the firefighters who subsequently extinguished the fire, as devastating as this case was, it could have been much worse. 5 victims were transported to Orange Regional Medical Center, otherwise known as ORMC. The first victim is Gina Marie Baricelli, a 57-year-old resident of apartment 54A. Ms. Baricelli, suffered burns and smoke inhalation. She was subsequently transported to Orange Regional Medical Center, or ORMC, where she is critical condition in the ICU. The second victim is Tonya Pickett, a 62-year-old female resident of apartment 53A. Ms. Pickett suffered from significant smoke inhalation. She was also transported to ORMC, where she is in critical but stable condition in the ICU. The third victim is Samuel Calacorvedo, an 88-year-old male resident of apartment 74A. Mr. Calacorvedo was transported to ORMC for chest pains and may have suffered a heart attack. He is currently listed in stable condition. 2 additional victims, the first, Kevin Sloan, a 54-year-old male, and Maria Cardenas, a 78-year-old female, were both treated for smoke inhalation at Orange Regional Medical Center and subsequently released. Detectives from this department are working alongside Orange County fire investigators with the assistance from the Orange County District Attorney's Office, and as Chief Manley mentioned, a subsequent cause of the fire will be released by the fire chief at a later time.
Chief, will you be able to release those names and the spellings and their
Yes, press
age?
release is forthcoming.
Please.
Yes.
And can you just describe this rescue effort a little bit more? When we first got to the scene today, some of the neighbors said they saw police carrying out children. It sounds like it was very heroic, like you said, if you can go into that.
I believe that was the word I used, and I said, but for the actions of the officers and subsequently the firefighters, this situation could have been much worse. I interviewed most of the officers who were on the scene, and yes, as they arrived on the scene, they evacuated at least 50 people from the building. I believe some of them were children, yes.
It was mentioned that careless smoking might be a factor, or among the injuries was it in the unit of one of the people who was injured, one of the persons?
I'm not sure, I understand the question.
So careless smoking is being investigated as a cause of the people injured. Was it in that apartment that the smoking may have been occurring?
One of the victims could have come from the apartment where the fire may have started, yes.
The victim who jumped, which is that?
I don't have his information in front of me. He actually refused medical aid on the scene, and our detectives are going to be interviewing him later this afternoon. But from what I understand, and as Chief Manley stated earlier, the injuries, or if he had any,
They were minor. He went to ORMC, and by the time we were finished, he was already back at the scene.
And detectives are going to interview him later today.
Thank you.
How many apartments were in this building?
I'll defer to Chief Manley, but I believe it's 15 total, 3 units, 5 each.
15 units in the building.
14 occupied.
You said there was, how many people in total within this building? You said it was over 50?
I believe we, in evacuating all the buildings that potentially were affected, my officers told me that there was over 50 people evacuated. That's not only buildings that were subject to the fire, it was also other buildings which were placed in harm's way due to hot embers that were, potentially could have ignited other buildings.
How many firefighters in total answered this call?
I want to answer your question on departments that responded.
You said there was many departments that answered.
How many departments?
And how many firefighters?
Well, we had all of Battalion 1, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you offhand how many were there, because I also have standby companies that come to my firehouse, so it all adds up. I'm gonna say probably a total of 12, 13 departments total that were moved or at the scene.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lou Ingrassia, Commissioner of Public Works, also co-coordinator of OEM, Office of Emergency Management of the Town of Wallkill. Lou was there on the scene last night personally, along with Joe Andre, our coordinator here, and can describe some of the things that he saw and the agencies that were working with us. Lou?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Lou Ingrassia, Junior Commissioner of Public Works and also co-director of the Office of Emergency Management for the Town of Wallkill. Just to echo everything that's already been said here tonight, from the public works side of things, we were out, there was a storm going on, probably 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, heavy ice, sleet, rain conditions. We had vehicles in the area. When there's a call to this magnitude or any type of magnitude, if we are in service from a DPW side, we automatically will reroute our trucks and we'll get to the scene so we can open up the roads to get the emergency vehicles in. We did that last night. From the DPW side of things, there was an indication that there could have been a problem with a fire hydrant and or low water pressure. The system that they were pulling off of is a private system that's within the Crestwood apartment complex. Those apartments were built probably in the mid-60s. They were able to hook another hydrant on another area of the complex. So at no time was there a loss of water pressure and or a loss of water. So the magnitude of the fire and the amount of time that they were able to knock it down was pretty remarkable. From the Office of Emergency Management, I want to give credit to Joe Andre, our coordinator. Joe had made the recommendation right at the beginning of the call. The Town of Wallkill, we have a dial-a-bus program, 6 dial-a-buses we run. Joe had made the call right away to grab 2 of those dial-a-buses. We were able to use one as Red Cross triage, and we were able to use one as EMS triage. So that was a great call by our coordinator, Joe Andre. Also from the Office of Emergency Management, there was multiple agencies involved here. Everybody worked seamlessly. The Town of Wallkill has a very aggressive Office of Emergency Management. Most of you have been here before for various press conferences, both good and bad, but we take that job and that responsibility here in the Town of Wallkill extremely serious. So on behalf of the Office of Emergency Management and on behalf of the Department of Public Works, I want to thank everybody for a smooth and seamless operation last night, and we can only hope and pray for the victims. So thank you.
Lou, is the building salvageable?
I'm going to leave that up to Supervisor Depew and our building inspector, Frank Lev, is here. They'll be better able to answer that.
So at this point, Frank, if you could come on over. This is Frank Leva, who is our acting department head and building inspector for the Town of Wallkill. We had a number of inspectors involved. One of the deputy inspectors of the town is actually a firefighter in the Silver Lake Fire Department and drove one of the, I think it was a tanker truck or an engine, drove the engine up into the scene. This complex is tricky, and the fact that you kind of have some switchback hills that run up around this complex, and even in the ice and everything like that, we didn't have any complications there. So I think he's home sleeping right now, as you probably want to be. And Lou, I don't even know how you're standing. And Frank, if you want to talk to the structural issues and the way we're going to go about dealing with the structure and also the safety end of things.
Yeah. As far as the structure is concerned, there's an engineer going to be coming out to the site tomorrow, as well as the insurance company. We're going to rely heavily on that engineer's report to see which way we're going to go with that building. It could be anywhere from a partial demo. Basically, the middle part of that building had severe damage. The end units appeared to be okay, but we're going to, like I said, we're going to rely heavily on this engineer's structural analysis. We went there today, I went there back to the scene today with a fellow Assistant Building Inspector, Al Vance. We placarded the entire structure, basically putting condemnation notices on all the doorways. The site's going to be fenced in tomorrow, from what I understand, and I just want to emphasize we're here to help expedite the moving forward to get this on the right track as far as issuing permits and getting the people back in as soon as possible.
Could you spell your last name, Frank, please?
L-E-V as in Victor, A.
And it's Leva.
Leva, Frank Leva. That's it.
So currently, there's no one, no one's allowed in that structure, correct?
Correct. There is no, it's condemned. Nobody should be going in there except for securing the building. At some point, there might be some belongings that some of the tenants are looking to get. I think I'm going to leave this to OEM to see how we're going to handle that.
This now leads us to kind of get the feeling for what everybody battled through and now what's in front of us. Today, my office researched, working with the assessor's office and the building department, the 30 apartment complexes that exist within the town of Wallkill. We sent next day air letters to every one of them expressing our concern for the victims here. You have 15 apartment complexes, 14 were occupied, and about 20 to 25 displaced persons. The intention of sending out that notice is to say, if you have vacancy, we have people that will be referencing to you. Please contact us right away. In that letter, we also asked that if they could, maybe even potentially augment a common rent situation with them, give them a reduced rent as they try and get back on their feet for the next couple months, because some people had renter's insurance from what we've contacted, and some people did not and lost everything. We also asked the management of Crestwood, which has been phenomenal. They've been great to work with. I think everybody would attest to that. We asked David, their head person there, who came up from Jersey today, who's been wonderful to work with. The town is requesting that they return any security deposits that those tenants may have on file with that agency immediately. And if there's any rent that had been paid forward or anything like that, to get that money back in the hands of the tenants as soon as possible, because in many of these cases, you know what it is if you've ever been a renter. By the time you pay security deposit, maybe the first 2 months rent, and then you're into a month, you don't have any money, and now you've just lost everything. So he's working on that. He's hoping, and he told me this afternoon at a phone call that we had at 2:30, that he's hoping to be able to cut some checks tomorrow back to people, which I think is tremendous. It shows you the commitment in them working with us. The other concern, is people trying to get back into the building. We had folks from the police department and myself personally and folks from my office make phone calls to all of the individuals who were affected today. And of those phone calls, I think there were only about 3 or 4 that we were not able to make contact with. If somebody was a victim of this, we asked them to reach out to our office. It could be through email, through the website, or simply calling our office. And we will do whatever we can to help them find a new apartment. And also, we're trying to create a central registry of email addresses, if at all possible, of victims, so we can communicate quickly if there is a time in which we can get people back into some portions of the building to get their things back. We do know that in that area, there's a woman who owns 4 cats, and she is concerned that her cats are alive, but that they are no longer in the building, because in the hustle of everything with doors being open, everybody running out of the building, the cats scattered. So if you see 4 cats kind of hanging out together in that area, contact our police department here, send us an email, we'll send out animal control to try and get those cats back to her. One of the victims is pregnant. And everything is fine as far as that's concerned, but you can imagine being pregnant and the stresses of that. She has nowhere to go. She has no future apartment outside of emergency shelter, so we're going to be working with her very closely to try and help her out. The company that owns Crestwood owns a number of other facilities in the county and in the Hudson Valley. Although they don't have a lot of vacancy, they do have 3 vacancies in apartments in New Windsor. So we're going to try and shepherd some of the hardest luck cases to those apartments if that can accommodate them. And most people just want their stuff back. They're happy to be alive. They're so grateful for the efforts of law enforcement and the fire department and EMS. I have to tell you, in my 5 years experience of being supervisor of this town, this is the thing I worry about the most. A major building having a fire in horrible conditions, and how would we respond to that? How would we bounce back from that? We made a commitment as a team, every agency as a team, that we can't prevent every disaster from happening, but we can make sure that we close the gap between the disaster happening and when we bounce back. And I have to tell you, I have heard nothing but heroic stories from everyone involved, and I really got to thank Silver Lake, all the members of Battalion 1, TOVAC, Mobile Life, the county, Joe Andre, Lou Ingrassia, the chief, the building department. These folks have all stepped up their game to deliver a very high quality of service here in the town of Wallkill, and I'm proud to be working with you.